Good afternoon, good evening, students. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing good. It has been a long time since I've done a video, I know, but now I'm back, due to holidays and all. Now that the new year or the new school year has started, I'm back in order to do my best, of course, and try to help you out during this year as well. Now, if you have any question at the end of the video, you can ask them in the comments below. I will answer as soon as I see them. Or you can leave a like on the Facebook page of this channel, HM English, and you can contact me there and I will answer as well. Or you can contact me on my Facebook profile or Instagram or any other social media. Now, this um, this topic or the topic of today is called Romanticism. I didn't pick this lesson randomly, but it was requested by many students, especially third year students, not from my university only, but from other universities of our country. Before I start, you should know that every movement was or emerged because something happened before. So if we say that romanticism emerged, it is only because something caused its emergence. It's basically or generally all the movements were a reaction of something that has happened before. Now, the plan of the lecture, we're going to start with a small definition, easy to understand. Do not learn by heart, just understand it. Just you can learn the dates. It's a must, but yeah. After the definition, we are going to move to the most important part of the lecture, which is the characteristics. I have picked some important characteristics according to me and according to other sources as well, but you can also find other characteristics elsewhere. After that, I'm going to give what we call a critique, or basically it's two critiques of Romanticism. When I say critique, it doesn't mean I am criticizing this movement, but it means that Romanticism, right, or Romantics of that time used to write things. This is why it is included in literature, so it had to be written or spoken against something. So they were criticizing something. I'm not going to give more information for now. I'm just going to explain later in the video. So this is the plan of the lesson. You should know that. So when we speak about Romanticism, what is this movement? When did it start? And when did it end? So, like I said, every movement is a reaction of something. But now, Romanticism is a reaction against something. So first, it started in the late 18th century and ended in the early 19th century, I believe. It is a reaction against the Industrial Revolution, Enlightenment, and rationality logic in general. So it is a movement in art and literature, of course. This is a brief definition. So we had Enlightenment. Enlightenment led to a huge technological improvements, and these technological improvements led to what we call the Industrial Revolution. So that was good. They had built factories and a lot of things. So economy developed in the countries and so on and so forth. But some people did not like that because the workers were moving into towns. It was a little bit messy, and according to Romantics, this is not my own opinion, but according to the people who belong to this movement, they didn't like that. Because if you think about Enlightenment, for example, it led to huge technological improvements and all, but it also led to what we call rationality, reasoning. And due to reasoning, we had colonialism, we had wars. For example, the First World War, the Second World War. So people did not like that. So they had to put an end to it. But in order to try to do that, they emerged with a new movement that we call Romanticism. This is basically Romanticism, its definition and its historical background. It's briefly explained, I hope it's clear. Now we move to its characteristics. So when we talk about the characteristics, we have many characteristics, like I said, the characteristics that I have picked, and you can find other characteristics, of course. We start with nature. Nature is a very important characteristic in Romanticism movement. For a romantic person or a person that belongs to this movement, it is preferable to look at a beautiful view of nature rather than staring at the crowded city. Like I said, they were against urbanization, so for them to leave a rural place, you leave a natural view, a natural place with all its beauty in order to go and live in a town, a crowded city, just in this for the sake of getting close to your factory or something. It wasn't good. So for romantics, it is preferable to look at a beautiful view of nature rather than staring at a crowded city. I hope it's clear for the first characteristic. Then we have childhood. For childhood, for us right now, most of us, um, childhood is not that important for us. They're just kids. They are supposed to be kids, and they grow up and they are going to achieve stuff. But for romantic people or romantics, those who belong to this movement, it was something pure, or childhood was something pure that seeks the truth and often asks a lot of questions due to their curiosity. Curiosity is very important in romanticism because it makes a person question themselves in order to seek answers, and these answers are answered alone without the affection of the external world. This is the second characteristic. Then we move to emotion. Emotion, or when we say in terms of emotion, they give a lot of importance to one's emotion. Unlike during Enlightenment age or Enlightenment era, one's only concerned with rationality and reasoning. For example, if you compare Enlightenment era and Romanticism, um, let's say a rational person would think that this is good, this is bad. This is when they are trying to reason. Although their, let's say, their heart, between brackets, is telling them that's bad, if logically is good, they are going to do it because it was the age of enlightenment. Romanticism was against that. Romanticism was against reasoning and rationality. A person should follow what they want and they should question themselves to express their emotions, their feelings, rather than letting everything to rationality. This is a point that we call emotion. The fourth characteristic is religion. Romantics tend to love things that are complex to understand. Why? Because if it is hard to be understood, it makes you question yourself without trying to ask the others or to reason, because you cannot find the answer outside unless you find it inside yourself. This is generally about faith. This is why they were more into religion, but they were not extremists. Religion was good, but human beings were better. So they gave importance to religion, of course, but it was less centered than if you compare it with transcendentalism. Um, I don't want to confuse you with transcendentalism. I have made a video about that, you can check it. Um, when I say transcendentalism, it's centered on God. Romanticism is less centered than God. This is what I meant. And also, in terms of religion in Romanticism, the Romantics are more into the beautiful aspect of religion. For example, if you take Catholicism, it's a beautiful thing when you look at the church, for example. They put candles, they draw things in the church, the cathedral in general. So this is beautiful. The Romantics are more interested in these things rather than the faith itself. And we have the other characteristic that we call romantic love. This is where romance comes from. For romantics, love is important, but getting married in the name of love is more important than for the sake of economics. Because if you go back in history, people used to get married in order to have a better situation. Take kings, for example. They used to marry let's say, their sons only with a princess, for example, in order to make an alliance with that country to make the economy better. But for the romantics, they're against that. They want marriage to be in the name of love, not for the sake of economics. This is another characteristic. Another one is what we call the sublime. Well, the sublime, it means that human beings are helpless in front of nature. Nature is vast, nature is great, nature is big, nature is beautiful, but a human being feels so small in front of nature. This is the sublime. The sublime is something big and powerful. In other words, it refers to the greatness beyond all possibility of calculation, measurement, or imitation, meaning that a human being cannot imitate nature. A human being cannot produce something so beautiful like nature. If you take an example, the ocean. The ocean is very vast and beautiful, but at the same time scary. This is the sublime. Then we have the noble savage. I don't know if you know Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He explained this, and it was adopted by other scholars or even authors when they wrote their books, like Charles Dickens, for example. It means the closer you are to nature, the less corrupted you are. Because when you are close to nature, generally you are, let's say, away from people. And people destroy beautiful things. They generally affect the innocent ones. So when you're close to nature, nature is savage, truly, but it's not corrupted, of course, according to romantics. Then we have another important characteristic that we call imagination. It is considered to be a very important element to the romantics. It is also perceived as a form of art since emotion is a stimulus of imagination. And of course, emotion is a characteristic of romanticism, like I said. We have another characteristic that we call individualism. Individualism, it's focusing on emotions and rejecting reasoning. Um, Meaning, when I say rejecting reasoning, it led to individualism. When you are not reasoning, which means you are not following the same path as the others. So you want to follow your own path, your individual path, your path. This is what led to individualism. In other words, a person should find answers to their question or questions alone without being affected externally. It also gives importance to a human being, not a group. Because if you come back to the Middle Ages, for example, kings were more interested in a group rather than a human being. So, for the Romantics, every human being is important. Now, these are the characteristics that I personally find very important to understand. Of course, you can make extra research, and you will, I'm sure you will find other characteristics, of course. Now we move to the last point. There is the critiques of Romanticism. The first one is Oliver Goldsmith's The Deserted Village. It's a poem that deals with the fact that villages in the countryside were deserted due to urbanization. That was the outcome of Industrial Revolution. Like I said, Romanticism emerged due to something that has happened before. So there was a cause. If we take Industrial Revolution as a cause of this emergence, so normally this movement should try to stop the cause because that cause, according to Romantics, is bad. So Oliver Goldsmith wrote a poem where he wrote about the first part. He wrote about the beauty of the countryside and its greatness and all. And the second part, or the last part, he wrote about the how bad or how much it was critical to leave the countryside. How could you, for example, leave such a beauty and go to the towns in order to work in a very dark and crowded city next to factories that have smokes and pollution and all. So this is for the first critique of Romanticism. The second one, or the last one that I picked, it's Frankenstein. Frankenstein was a symbol for the Romantics, and they wanted to express the thought that science, or during that era, it was we found the excessive amount of science, meaning Frankenstein was supposed to be the perfect human, but too much science turned that human into a monster. So this is the thoughts of the Romantics, or the people who belong to that movement. So I hope I have made things clear for you. If you didn't understand something, feel free to message me or leave your question in the comments below. Otherwise, you can contact me in the official Facebook page of this channel. And I tell you, see you in the next video. Peace. Let it go, make my body go, make our bodies high.